All right, let's dive in. Today we're talking about something pretty huge for banking innovation. We're going to look at how banks can shift gears from a super slow crawl to, well, actual breakthroughs. And the secret? It's tapping into this incredible creative resource that's, believe it or not, been hiding in plain sight the whole time.
You've probably felt this yourself, right? You're using your banking app, you spot a problem that seems so obvious, and you think, hey, here's a simple fix. And then, nothing. You just wait and wait. So why does it take months, sometimes even years, for your bank to roll out something that feels like a no-brainer? Well, the answer comes down to a really fundamental, and let's be honest, a totally outdated way of doing things.
Okay, so at the heart of this whole problem, you've got this clash between two totally different worlds. Think of it like this. On one side, you have the old way, the producer model. It's slow, it's bureaucratic, and it's all dictated by outside vendors. But on the other side, you've got this new approach, user-led creation. This is fast, it's agile, and it's powered by the creativity of the bank's own people and customers. And that is the powerful shift we're going to break down.
So let's start by digging into the problem itself. What's so wrong with this old producer model anyway?
You know the drill with the traditional approach, right? It's super linear, super slow. Some vendor publishes a roadmap, the bank writes mountains of documentation, and then months and months later, maybe something gets built. But here's the kicker, the real secret. The best, most brilliant innovations, they're not on any of those roadmaps. Nope, they're actually happening right now as these clever little workarounds that customers and frontline staff are creating just to get through their day.
Okay, so if the big ideas aren't coming from the vendors, where do we find them? Well, this brings us to the real heroes of our story, the true source of innovation, a special group we call lead users.
So what exactly is a lead user? Think of them as people who are basically living in the future. Their needs are way ahead of what the mainstream market is asking for. They feel the pain of a missing feature or a clunky process way more intensely than anyone else, and that gives them this incredible motivation to just invent their own fix.
And get this, they are absolutely everywhere in banking. I mean, think about the small business owner who's juggling foreign exchange rates and trying to handle instant refunds on the fly. Or picture a collections team that's practically living inside these insane exception queues they've built themselves. Or what about the treasury team trying to reconcile these crazy real-time payment flows? These people aren't outliers, they're pioneers. They're on the front lines, solving problems before anyone else even knows they exist.
And this right here? This requires a complete 180 in how we think about things. You know all those messy spreadsheets and complicated workarounds that these lead users create? The natural instinct is to see them as problems, right? Things that need to be stamped out. But we need to stop that, because they're not problems, they're blueprints. They're literally a map to the real, elegant solution.
So the big question is, how do we actually build a system that supports these innovators instead of fighting them? Well, it really comes down to three key building blocks.
It's a simple three-step process. First, you have to go out and actively find these lead users. Second, you build communities around them, places where they can share their solutions and make them even better. And third, and this is crucial, you embed toolkits right into the core banking platform. This lets their ideas become reality, and it lets them do it safely and super fast.
Okay, let's zoom in on that second step for a second. Building communities. I want you to just forget everything you know about those massive, static, 100-page requirement documents. The goal here is totally different. It's to create something alive, a place where users share what we're calling recipes. These are proven solutions that other people can just grab, copy, tweak a little, and adapt for whatever they need.
And honestly, this is where the magic really happens. A super clever, but totally isolated fix for something like dormancy rules in, say, one country. Suddenly, it's not a one-off thing anymore. It becomes a reusable pattern, a recipe. Now, teams in other markets can grab it and deploy it in a matter of days, not months. Think about all the duplicated effort that just vanishes.
All right, the final piece of this puzzle is the toolkit. This is what makes the whole process repeatable, scalable, and most importantly, safe. These toolkits give teams a really simple way to configure stuff like interest rates, payment schedules, timers, you name it. And then they can turn those designs directly into live products because all the necessary safety guardrails are already built right in.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds great, it sounds fast, but for any bank, the number one question is always, is it safe? And the answer is a resounding yes. In fact, it's safer. And that's because this new model has much, much smarter governance baked in from the very beginning.
Just look at the difference here. The old way, it saves all the important checks for the very end of the process. And that's exactly where you get those nasty, project-killing, last-minute surprises. This new model, it completely flips the script. The controls are automated and they're running constantly. The final decision to go live isn't some gut feel human sign-off. It's based on whether a simulation against real data was successful. This completely transforms the outcome, from high-risk guesswork to truly predictable, safe behavior.
And of course, you can't improve what you don't measure, right? So this whole system is kept honest by tracking just a few key metrics that tell you in black and white if this big shift is actually working.
And the data is incredible. It proves that this works. When you empower your lead users, the time to ledger, which is just a fancy way of saying the time between having an idea and it being real, absolutely plummets. And because teams can now test ideas safely, the number of iterations per week shoots up, which means learning happens way faster. And remember those automated checks and simulations? Well, because of those, the first-time right rate just soars. And here's the most important takeaway of all. You don't have to choose between speed and quality anymore. This model gives you both.
But listen, the real impact here, the real unlock, it goes so much deeper than just shipping new features faster. This is about fundamentally transforming the entire bank.
Let's start with the technology. The change is just profound. Your core banking system stops being this rigid, lockdown fortress that no one can touch. Instead, it becomes a flexible, programmable platform. It becomes a foundation, heck, a playground for real creativity.
And then there's the culture. The entire organization transforms into a genuine learning community. The bank starts improving not because of office politics or sitting through endless meetings, but by actually doing things, by constantly building, testing, and sharing what really works.
When you boil it all down, it comes to this. When your simulations are catching the weird edge cases before the regulators do, and when your core products are modular and actually easy to change, your teams stop being afraid of product updates. And that confidence, that removal of fear, that is the real unlock. It's what turns innovation from this rare, high-stakes gamble into a steady, reliable engine for growth.
So I want to leave you with a question to think about. It doesn't matter if you're in banking or any other industry. Who are the hidden innovators in your world? What are the clever spreadsheets, the secret workarounds that are right now under your nose mapping out your company's next big breakthrough? I guarantee you they're already there. The real challenge, the real work, is to just start listening to them.